Hey guys, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Tom Arnold, and today I'm joined by Ash Paulson to discuss his recent time with Paper Mario Color Splash and Mario Party Star Rush at PAX West 2016. So let's get started.
Alright, so Mario Party Star Rush, Paper Mario Color Splash. We got to play both one after the other at an appointment here at PAX West, and we got to see some new stuff. Coinathlon mode, for example. Now, that's something that was hinted at, or not hinted at, but they kind of showed it off very quickly and didn't really cover it in depth at E3, but they showed it to us at PAX here.
So Coinathlon, I'm assuming a 42 minigame marathon?
I wish, but that's actually not too far from the truth. It is kind of a marathon. Well, it is a marathon. It's called Coinathlon. And I have to say, I think the overall buzz in this game is just kind of lukewarm. I don't think there are that many people out there who seem super hyped for Star Rush, and I can see why. It's another handheld Mario Party game, but I have to say, Coinathlon mode at least, really, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
From what you showed me, it looked like it had a pretty good pace to it. It's like a good option for when you don't want to wait for all the board game and just have minigame after minigame and get a sort of ranking at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of cuts out all the fluff. It cuts out all the board game elements to it, so it really is just... I mean, there is a board on the bottom screen, but you essentially move on that board by collecting coins and minigames on the top screen. Basically, how quickly you move across the board and whether or not you win is directly proportional to how you perform in the minigames. So it does kind of, I wouldn't say it completely removes the luck element from Mario Party, but it definitely is more skill-based than your typical Mario Party standard mode.
Alright, and so it's not your father's Mario Party if your father was only 10 years old.
Right. And it's not your son's Mario Party either, because this is actually, it really doesn't have a whole lot in common with Mario Party 9 and 10 from what I've seen so far, which could be a good thing, I think, for a lot of fans.
Well, let's check if it's a good thing. Is everybody in the Coinathlon in the same car?
They are not, and there are no cars, in fact, on the board in Coinathlon.
Oh, man.
And actually, there are no cars that I've seen in Star Rush at all, even in the other mode we saw, which is Toad Scramble. But yeah, this definitely, I got the sense that they were specifically trying to go away from, design sense they established in 9 and 10 with everybody moving around in the same car. And I think maybe they're getting the feeling that, or get the sense that has not been that well received. So I have to say, Star Rush so far feels to me to be the most similar to the older Mario Party games in a long time.
Okay, but with Coinathlon, I was noticing it seemed like you're just kind of playing by yourself in the minigames against the CPU. Is that right?
Yeah, well, not against the CPU. You are playing against other people, but they are different instances, and by that I mean you're not necessarily interacting.
Yeah, in the minigame itself.
Yeah. So and that was something I thought was a bit of a bummer. Now, of course, in other modes, you are competing with other players, like in the same minigame, and you can see them live. But in Coinathlon specifically, even though you're all playing the same minigames, you are essentially just trying to fight against yourself to collect as many coins as you can. Now, that doesn't. Your opponent still can screw with you, because in the middle of all this, you can get items like Mario Kart style, like bluebirds and whatnot. They can hinder your opponent's movement. So
yeah,
stuff like that.
Can you describe any of the minigames for us?
Yeah, so one of the ones that we played was called Steel Diver, except it's S-T-E-A-L. Gotta love that pun.
Oh, let's get Andre in here.
I know.
Steel Diver.
I know, I almost feel like Andre secretly named it. And that was pretty cool. So, I mean, obviously you're controlling a submarine, and essentially you are just trying to grab as many coins as you can, and they're floating from the surface of the ocean. They're floating down. Sinking down. That doesn't make sense. They're sinking down, and you're trying to avoid mines and get as many coins as you can, while at the same time trying to get yourself out of any binds caused by items used against you by other opponents. So sometimes, there's an item that can restrict your movement on the board, so you'll be called upon to frantically tap on the touch screen while this minigame's going on to make it so that your character can move again with the coins they get.
Oh, and so from that game, and I guess there was also the bumper ball game.
Yeah, I don't know I can't remember what the exact name of it was, but it did remind me a lot of bumper balls from like Mario Party 1 and 2, which is never a bad thing. That was like always one of my very favorite minigames from the like original games in the series. So.
Yeah. And after that, I guess you guys got to try Toad Scramble for a bit. Now, I haven't seen Toad Scramble, but I would guess you crack open a toad on a pan and sort of stir it with the pork and then eat it.
Exactly. That's family-friendly Mario Party fun. That's exactly you just described. We don't even have, this discussion's over. No, Toad Scramble is like the game's standard main mode, and in this mode, you play as 4 differently colored toads. And that's a little strange because you're not playing as the, usual stable of Mario characters that you're used to. But instead, they're actually their role in this mode is to be helpers on the board. So you can actually recruit Mario characters like, Peach, Rosalina, Luigi, Bowser as partners on the board, and they'll help you defeat bosses. They'll help you get ahead in the game, essentially. So your performance in Toad Scramble, kind of has to do with how many characters you can recruit and how you kind of plan out your movements. And there's no waiting. I mean, there's a little waiting, but you're essentially all rolling at the same time and planning out your moves around the board at the same time. So they've really cut down on the waiting aspect between turns.
And when you recruit somebody, do you play as that other character in the minigame?
You might in certain ones. I don't know, because we only had like 10 minutes to play Toad Scramble, so I don't know for sure. I don't want to say for sure, but I don't think so. Usually they're helping you indirectly.
Okay. So coming to that, what are you seeing now with Mario Party? Like, do you think this is going to be one of the better ones that you can recommend, or like sort of sit on the fence waiting to see?
I think it's hard to say. I'm sitting on the fence. I definitely am paying more attention than I was when it was announced at E3, because back then it was just like it's another 3DS Mario Party game. To me, Mario Party is the kind of series that I want to play on my TV with friends, and that hasn't changed. I kind of find myself wishing that Star Rush is a console game or a Wii U game, because Mario Party 10 wasn't great, and I don't go back and play it with friends that often, but I feel like this, I would actually want to, because it kind of harkens back more to the original style of Mario Party. So I think the fact that it's on 3DS is really the only problem I have with it, because it's actually pretty fun. I will say Toad Scramble, it's okay. It's not like, my favorite thing, but I really did enjoy Coin-Athlon. And for what it's worth, Toad Scramble, I think I was at least enjoying more than the car-based gameplay of Mario Party 9 and 10.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by the Coin-Athlon. That seems like a really good one to pick up and, have a sort of more fast-paced Mario Party game as opposed to a long
Exactly.
game.
Yeah, I think I really like that it was just, other Mario Party games have minigame-only modes where you just play minigames and whoever has the most coins at the end wins, but this one kind of added in that frantic element to it where it's a mad dash to the end. There's not as much strategy. It's just you kind of strategize on the fly, but really it is all about just playing as well as you can and using items at the right time, and it really is more about skill, I have to say. Like, Nintendo is telling us that it completely removes the element of luck, and I don't quite agree with that, but it really does downplay it a lot in this mode.
Well, as long as I can use that item swap one and give all of Andre's stars to Derek, that'll be fine.
That's fine with me. Well, as long as you don't, affect me with that and just screw over Andre, that's cool.
All right, well, we're kind of in a bit of a rush, so let's go for a bit of a splash of Paper Mario Color Splash.
Wow, you've been studying the Andre Seeger's pun book, I can see. So, yeah, Paper Mario Color Splash. They showed us a new area that we hadn't seen before. So back at San Diego, they were showing us the Dark Blue N. And this time, we got to see the Golden Coliseum. So clearly, we can already see that there's a naming scheme here. Yeah. And, I find myself so conflicted on Paper Mario Color Splash because, I'm gonna be blunt. The more we see this game, it is much more like Sticker Star than the RPG, Paper Mario, the original, and the Thousand Year Door. That said, it does seem to be a significantly improved Sticker Star. I'm not saying it's it fixes all of Sticker Star's problems, but it's not just slight improvements. It really does seem to be significantly improved. And the thing that really stood out to me watching the Golden Coliseum apart and seeing everything it has to entail, the writing is just this is some of Treehouse's best work to date, and I'm really not. Of course, you can't say that for sure until we see the whole game, but I want to stress there were many times where we all laughed out loud at how hilarious the writing is, and it has kind of a cheekiness to it that I feel like has been absent in games like Sticker Star. Even though that was still funny, this one just pushes the envelope a little bit further for what I'm seeing.
Yeah, from what you showed me there, even cheeky, sort of making fun of Mario himself a bit. Do you remember one of the examples? Yeah,
there's a part right before you fight the boss of the Coliseum, which is Iggy Koopa, actually, where you have to there are basically all these enemies in the Coliseum, and you can fight them one by one, and it could take you forever. Or if you do, some searching around, you'll find a superstar. So you become invincible and then just start running into all these enemies and knocking them out instantly. And then one of the the announcer or something will say, "Oh, Mario uses some performance-enhancing power-up to cheat his way to victory," and it's like, whoa! And then in the very next line, they're like, "It's a paint bath. It's a massacre out there. Mario the war criminal is just destroying everyone." And I'm like, this is. It's just got an edginess to it, but not like a cheesy, like, you know, it's trying to be dark kind of edginess, but just kind of like they're pushing the envelope and just making you like kind of be surprised by what they're willing to put in this game.
It's what we all know all along with Mario just killing everyone.
Obviously, we all know that he's a war criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so this was sort of a Roman Coliseum, and there were guys in the crowd. And did you see any new sort of special abilities or elements that we didn't see at E3 or San Diego?
Well, we saw a few new thing cards. So we saw, you know, and this is one of the things where I'm not so sure how I feel about this returning. In order to be the boss, Iggy Koopa, he's riding a chariot with these chain chomps, basically pulling the chariot. And, you know, until you get rid of that chariot, you are essentially fighting a losing battle. He does crazy damage to you, so you have to enter the battle with the correct thing card, which is the bone card in this case, because the chain chomps go crazy for the bone, and the chariot is destroyed. But I kind of pressed them on this while we were, you know, in the demo, and it seems to me that some boss battles still are basically unwinnable unless you use the right thing card.
Yeah.
But the improvement part comes in the fact, at least according to Nintendo, they have made it much more obvious what you need to use. Like, they've removed a lot of the guesswork.
It's not so obscure anymore.
Yeah, it's you're not just going into boss fights like wondering if you even have the right thing card. Like, you're funneled much more, or it's made much more obvious to you what you need before you enter the fight.
Will they give you hints, like little characters in the game tell you?
Well, one of the that's actually, I'm glad you asked that, because one of the funniest parts of the demo was, you know, you have to talk to this receptionist for him to let you go, you know, fight in the Central Coliseum and fight the boss. And everything he says to you has the word bone in it. Like they work the word bone into everything he says to you. Like, you know, you might get really boned if you go out there right now or something. Like,
I don't think they'd say that.
That's probably true. They wouldn't say that.
A bone to pick.
A bone to pick. Yeah. I wish I could remember specifically, but it's very clever the way they use, you know, the word bone. And so essentially it's like, okay, it's obvious from the script that you need some sort of bone-like thing to when there's no way to talk about this without it being hilarious. But that's kind of what I like about it. Like, it feels fresher than Sticker Star did. I will say that much. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is not going to magically make you love the Sticker Star style of gameplay, I don't think, but it is better.
Yeah, so fresher, the paint is still wet.
Yeah, the paint is still wet, yeah. And kind of speaking of the paint, your paint kind of determines how much you can power up your cards in battle. So if you run out of paint, you're stuck with these, you know, essentially monochrome cards that do far less damage or hits than a fully painted card would. So a lot of the challenge comes from managing your paint, I think. You're managing your paint levels and, you know, kind of making sure you don't go into battle unprepared on that front.
Well, as long as you have a can-do attitude, and I mean paint can.
Wow, you're just on those puns tonight. Andre would be proud.
The more tired I am, the worse the puns are. I'll say that.
Yeah, we're recording this at the end of day 3 of PAX, so it's pretty crazy.
Now, with all this being said, in the latest demo, like, it looked hilarious. Do you feel that this will stand out on its own, and like, can you live without the RPG elements of other Paper Mario games that you loved in the past? Can you trade it in for this one?
You know, I mean, I think if you go into it with an open mind, yes, there's a possibility of that. Of course, we don't know how great or good or not the final game is going to end up being, but, you know, I think if you go into it with an open mind, you could have a good time here. I just think, you know, there is that RPG element that has been lost in this in Sticker Star, and that doesn't really make a comeback. Yeah. And I think that, you know, if you just have a tunnel vision with this series and that's all you want out of it, and if you don't want an RPG, or if you don't get an RPG, then you don't want it at all, then Color Splash I don't think is going to appeal to you. But I don't know, I would caution people, or I would caution Paper Mario fans against turning a blind eye to this game too quickly, because the more I see of it, the more it's kind of staying with me. Like, I can almost certainly tell you it's not going to supplant The 1,000 Year Door as my favorite Paper Mario game, but I don't know. I think it's actually going to end up being a good time, especially just because of the humor involved. Like, this really may be Treehouse's best writing since Thousand Year Door.
Yeah, and not only the writing, but the new, or at least a thing card I haven't seen before, was the lemon one.
The lemon, which is, and you kind of noted how it shifts from the regular, papery 2D background to almost like a 3D image of a kitchen counter.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if that's actually in 3D or a 2D pre-render, but it looked like it was kind of shifting direction and it looked really good.
Yeah, and then it's just, and it's in that weird Paper Mario way, the lemon splits up into slices, and then it just squeezed the lemon juice onto Iggy, and it didn't really do any damage, but it was funny, like really funny.
Well, I find, you ever hear with a computer, it's like if it breaks down, oh, I got a lemon. So it's like the lemon card itself, or the lemon thing is a lemon, like it doesn't do much.
I haven't heard that, but that makes sense in that context.
Maybe that's what they're going for, but just seeing him squint his eyes, getting the slightly acidic juices in there, like,
So good. And, even though the other thing cards we've already seen before, they still have a punchiness to them. I feel that the thing stickers and Sticker Star didn't. Like the Lucky Cat card is really, it's just a lot more bombastic and a lot more epic and grand than the 3DS version of that sticker was.
Yeah.
And what was the? Oh, and then of course you have the piggy bank, which we got to see that again. I mean, that breakdancing piggy bank with the dubstep. I mean, how can you not love that? Like, it's just so weird and seemingly out of place, but somehow it also isn't out of place because it's Paper Mario.
Yeah, and if there's enough thing cards in it, I'm sure hopefully they won't get old as the game goes on. I could only imagine after like a 20-hour game, let's say, or 16 hours, and if you have to do that every time, but if there's, let's say, 30 or 40 thing cards, it's probably all right, I would guess.
Yeah, and it also doesn't seem like you necessarily, outside of the boss battles that you need specific ones for, it doesn't seem like the thing cards, you don't have to use them, so they could be the kind of thing where you use each new one to see what it does, but they're not necessarily, you don't have to sit through them and use them a lot. So, it's hard to tell just from the snippets of the game how the difficulty balance is going to be handled, but I did note that in other Paper Mario games, it is very easy to take a lot of damage quickly if you're not really on that dodge button and on the dodge mechanics.
Yeah.
So, I think when Andre was playing against, he was fighting Iggy, I think he got hit 3 times or 2 times or something for like 14 or 16 damage each, and he only had like 75 HP.
Yeah.
Max. So, I don't think they're ratcheting down the challenge at all, necessarily.
Well, that's good, and that's what's unique to Paper Mario, actually being able to dodge the moves during battle, and not the leveling up part. So, I mean, that part is in there. I would say that is almost more important in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they didn't take that out, and that's something that basically every Mario RPG series, what you want to call it at this point, makes sure to keep in there at all costs, is like that kind of that action twitch element during fights that you can increase damage to enemies or dodge more damage to yourself depending on how good your reflexes and your timing and your pattern recognition are.
All right. Well, I guess that basically covers it. Any last thoughts on Paper Mario Color Splash?
Just kind of reiterating what I said before. Try not to write this game off too quickly. It's too soon to say how it's going to turn out, obviously overall, but being completely honest, the more I see this game, the more I'm warming up to it. It's not going to make me wish that, it's not going to make me forget about how much I want a new Paper Mario RPG game, but I think this is being set up to be something that will be a little more memorable and a little more polished than Sticker Star. Yeah,
not really quite a black and white decision at this point.
Right.
Anyway, well, all right, I guess that wraps it up here for us. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, keep it on Game Explained for more on Paper Mario Color Splash, Mario Party Star Rush, and all things gaming and Pogs. Until next time, guys, bye.